Barriers are roadblocks in the path of success. In order to enhance our learning, it is imperative that we understand what these barriers are and then make an attempt to minimize them as far as possible. Various studies have clearly shown that the cultural barriers and structural barriers are quite numerous. These are being worked upon by government and authorities. But one thing very important, which is the personal barrier, is something every individual needs to deal with. This can be dealt with motivation and changing the learning style. There are external and internal barriers. Among the external barriers, the first is environmental. If a child faces a lot of interruptions or lacks privacy, he is usually not able to learn well. Also, the socio-cultural barrier. If a child doesn't understand the language, then studying any subject in that language becomes very difficult. The value system is very important, and the educational background of the family and the educational institutions that the child studies in are equally important and all come under external barriers. Among internal barriers, we have two broad categories. In psychological, we have anxiety, fear, depression, and many a times the inability to comprehend. In psychological barriers, which are the barriers felt in our body, there are people who complain of pain, fatigue, and sensory deprivation whenever they sit down to study. The above barriers need to be dealt with, even if someone has to visit a doctor or a psychologist. Once those are dealt with, then comes your personal space. That means when you are sitting with a book, what has really happened at that point? Many a times, this is something that you had to learn, but what eventually gets retained in your mind is quite a different image. The reason for this is deletion, generalization, and distortion. When we study, a part of the information just gets removed from the brain. Then there are certain facts which become generalized. Instead of knowing their specific quality, we just remember the general concept, and some information is confused and distorted. These factors really trouble us a lot and diminish our learning to a large extent. What we need is clarity, focus, and alignment so that what we learn is exactly what gets retained in the mind, and the same bit of information is retrieved whenever we want to use that information. For this, we need to follow a 3H approach. We need to use our head, heart, and hands-on. By doing this, we will be able to hit the right target and our learning will become lifelong and deep. Thank you and God bless. Happy learning.